right, all right, all right. Good evening, everybody. I am very excited to be here today. It is, arguably one of my favorite times of year. This holiday season, I'm always just feeling happy for some reason. I didn't realize how much of a holiday person I was until this year. I don't know if it was because I have just a lot to be thankful for, grateful for, but I don't know, man. I've just been on one this entire time, so I'm just excited to be here right now. It is Wednesday. You know that we do our main rooms. Tonight we are joined by our esteemed colleagues at OTR Capital. We have our brother already that joined the stage. This brother is prompt, very punctual. Gary, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm feeling blessed, brother. Feeling very blessed. I got some dinner that's already made, so as soon as this bad boy is concluded, I'm there. But outside of that, I've had a blessed day. How about you?
I love to hear that. You've already beat me to the dinner part. I got out of the office a little bit late, so I haven't started the dinner yet.
Hey, man, I can't lie to you. This air fryer has done wonders in my household. The air fryer.
Those are magic, man. They really are.
Right. I went from someone who barely prepared any type of meat, and that's just because of our diet. My wife and I, we went from being kind of pescatarian to then being, plant-based, then going to pescatarian. But since I've gotten this air fryer, I've been chicken this, turkey that. So it's been good, man. It's been good to us.
That sounds good. I'm still on the plant-based life, so I'll drag over soon.
Hey, man. Hey, whenever you want to. You don't feel any pressure. We were on rice and beans for a long time, and they were delicious.
Yep.
Well, look. Hey, y'all. It is now 7 p.m. Excuse me. We're going to go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Jory Myers. I'm so excited to be here. We are joined by OTR Capital. We have, I would really love for these two gentlemen to introduce themselves. I'm just going to position it. Can you say your name, your current role, and even what were you doing prior to joining OTR Capital? So let's go ahead and start with Gary, and then we're going to go to Cam.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'm excited to be with everyone on this call tonight. I hope that you all get something from what we have to say. Please ask questions as well. While you have us, we love to be able to provide the feedback. So I've been at OTR Capital for some time now, 6 years out of the 10 years that we've been around. So I've been able to see a lot with our company, a lot of growth, been able to see a lot of people come, a lot of good relationships as well with our clients over that time. I am the client success manager. So my biggest goal, of course, with the title is to make sure that our clients are successful at what they do. In return, if our clients are successful, we are more successful as an organization as well. So the onboarding process is normally what we manage when the clients first join OTR. We make sure that they are equipped with the tools and the resources that they need to, one, know how to factor, but also how to navigate that world when they go into partnership with a company like ours. So I'm excited. I love doing it. Before that, I was out of college for a few years, more so on the traditional financing side. That was suit and tie every day, clean shaven. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me. So that's when I had the opportunity to come into contact with some people at OTR, walked into the building, fell in love with the people there and the culture. And I've been there ever since.
All right. Hey, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And you kind of hit on something that, I don't know, man. A couple of us have talked about it, especially at the Leading Ladies of Logistics event. Everybody in that building, everybody at OTR Capital's headquarters is like happy. Everybody's smiling. Everybody is enthused. And I don't know what it is, but apparently the culture really means something there. So I've seen it, and I've dealt with you guys now. You're basically family at this point. So no, it seems like a great place. So thank you so much for joining us, Gary.
I agree. Thanks, man. Our people are our secret sauce. Even before Cam starts, I know he's one of them as well. We just love our people. It's kind of like going to Chick-fil-A. Before you even get there, man, you know what you're going to experience. People sit in line waiting, still knowing they're going to get good customer service, all because of people there. So same thing in our building. we hire the best, hire people who are positive. So
Oh, nice. And I can see it. So thank you. And now we're going to go ahead and transition to Cam. Cam, please introduce yourself, brother. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir, Jory. I appreciate you having us. And most importantly, appreciate you putting this group together. It's amazing, the education that is shared here, the knowledge that is passed on from one person to another on a weekly basis. We see it all the time. We see people, either wanting to get into the industry or just, getting their start into the industry, with a lack of knowledge of how it all works. And creating platforms like this one is only going to make the transportation industry a better one for the long haul and allow people to experience more success and quicker success. So I do appreciate that. But everybody is pretty happy at OTR until Jory shows up and is dressed way cleaner than anybody there, making us all look like some bums. I'm telling you, Jory's one of the cleanest dressed dudes that I know. But jokes aside, I'm Cam Ferguson. I'm a vice president of sales at OTR Capital. Come January, it will be my fourth year at OTR, so decent amount of time. And prior to working at OTR, I was actually working in the service industry. Never got my college degree. Worked my way up in the bars from checking IDs at doors to eventually getting my own sweat equity in the bar, and then wanted to transition into more of a 9-to-5. And OTR took a chance on me with no college degree, and worked my way up from business development representative to vice president of sales in less than 4 years. So very blessed to work for such an amazing company. They treat their employees well, they treat their carriers well, and I'm extremely appreciative.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, Cam, hey, man, thank you so much for joining us. You and I have been going back and forth for months now. And, I finally got that opportunity to meet you once I went into the OTR Capital building. And just like I assumed, it was all love. And, I just want to say thank you so much for always being, available and willing to, I want to just say, provide insights here in the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. You guys have done a lot for us, so we do appreciate that. And I didn't know that about your background, so that's pretty cool, actually. And I think it's indicative of what transportation and logistics is as a whole. You don't have to get that college degree to be successful in this industry. And, I talked to my nephews and my nieces and nephews who are, at this point becoming young adults. And, for my generation, it was, hey, you're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. And, that was my trajectory. But it took me a long time to learn that, no, you can definitely, you can make your way in this world. You just got to want to be able to do something. You just got to be committed to learning how to do something well.
Right. And it's a little bit tougher road. I felt that when I was going through my, interview process and application process with different employers. And, it was unbelievable. I have a great resume, with the exception of that one little badge of a college degree. And people wouldn't even, they would reply in less than 24 hours saying, they didn't want to interview me or they were going to pass, right? Just because of that, where if, looked at what the resume showed, may tell a different story. And I think that narrative is somewhat changing.
Yes,
but for the time being, they definitely consider that heavily. But there are people out there willing to take a chance, and it takes hard work. And again, it just goes back to how appreciative I am for finding a home like OTR Capital.
Yes, sir. And I don't want to harp on this too much, but you just said something that really resonated with, somebody who I love and respect, my dear big brother. This guy's taught me everything. Although he went the military route, I went the college route. This guy has led, he's been VPs of billion-dollar companies, have thousands of people reporting up to him. But that is one of the big things that he did talk about, even, as recently as last year, is just the fact that he didn't have a a college degree that kind of like hindered whatever he wanted to do. So I think it's silly at this point because, like you said, the resume speaks for itself, what you can do. And, but I'm happy that things are changing just because it should be about that experience and not just the paper. So I'm just going to digress on that point and transition to, hey, man, can y'all just tell me what are some of the most common misconceptions that you hear or experience when it comes to factoring and factoring services? And either one of you guys, just feel free to jump in on that.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. And when I was thinking about this of different misconceptions, a lot of the things that came to mind would be more specific to each factoring company, right? Everybody's got a different program going on. Some parts of those programs are a little bit, more common than others, but I try to narrow it down of just general misconceptions about, the factoring space. And number one that I hear, quite frequently is that a carrier's not in a contract. They say, oh, my contract is up, at the end of whether that they initially signed for a 6-month term or a 1-year term, whatever it is, they think because it's past that date that they're not in a contract any longer. However, every factoring company that I know of, that I've encountered, it's automatically renewing contracts. And unless some sort of notice is provided ahead of time, that contract will renew for the same term that you had initially signed up for. So, it takes, familiarizing yourself with the contract and knowing what those terms state. If a factoring company tells you they don't have a contract, that's never going to be the truth. The nature of the funding requires there to be a contract in place. What varies is the term of that contract, whether that's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year, whatever it is. But there is most certainly a contract in place. So that's one of the more common misconceptions that I deal with and hear on a daily basis. Gary, do you have anything to contribute to?
Yeah, of course. I'll jump in and add a few. Thanks, Cam. The first one that I kind of want to talk about is factoring is only meant for the small guys. So that's a misconception that I've heard sometimes, and I want to let people know factoring is for anybody really who's looking for a cash flow solution. It could be the 1 to 5 trucker. That's our bread and butter. Or it could be a bigger guy as well who's looking for somebody to help with the back office support. I have managed the recourse clients here at OTR. So I've seen companies who have 15 trucks all the way up to fleets of a few hundred. So it just depends on what you're looking for and kind of what you're wanting to get out of it from your business perspective. The one trucker who's driving, the owner operator, they need somebody that's just going to help the money keep moving. For a bigger company, it could be a supplement to your business plan. It could be saying, hey, I'm not going to hire 3 new accounting people because I can partner with this factoring company who can help me with collection, with invoicing, with customers and stuff like that. So that's one. Outside of that, I would probably say that some people say factoring is too expensive. So I would say it goes back to the company as well. It's just like when you're in that space and you're looking for a partner to help you with your cash flow, to help you with your back office, how much are you willing to pay? And then when you do go into partnership with a factoring company, what are you getting with what you're paying as well? So some people, you're only getting invoices paid when you're factoring with them. But a company like ours, we tell our clients, we want to be more than just a factoring company. We want to be a one-stop shop. If you need help and you have questions about fuel, we want to help you. If you need questions, you have stuff, you say, hey, I need some insurance. We want to be able to help there. So your factoring company should be able to offer just more than factoring to you. And if they're not, then you kind of ask yourself, is this a situation where I'm paying too much for what I'm getting? So those are kind of the two that I'll start with.
Yeah, and
okay.
I do hear it all the time so me being in sales, I primarily talk with carriers that are either, that are considering OTR, and sometimes they are using other factoring companies. So I'm hearing the other side of the coin quite frequently, with these carriers' experiences with other factoring companies. And I mean, that is not a misconception with some of these companies, right? And I think Gary's speaking on more of a perspective from, how we operate, right? Because that's how we're, judging factoring is how we operate. But some people are paying too much for factoring. Their rate may be lower than what they may be able to get with us, but they're still paying more or too much because they find themselves doing the factoring company's jobs for them. So it may not be a misconception for some factoring companies, but I believe and I'm confident in the value that OTR provides. So I can speak from a personal experience of the value that we provide. That carriers are paying a fair price, for the services provided by our company.
I agree, definitely.
All right. Hey, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys touched on a lot of things that I'm actually going to try to come back around and, expound on. But just so folks who are even new, because the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse, we're comprised of all types of folks, people who are, brand new in business, to the mom and pop shop, like you talked about, the 1 to 5 trucks. And we got some fat cats too, hundreds of units. So, just for the folks who are brand new, I know we kind of already got to the misconceptions of factoring, but what is factoring? What is your bread and butter? What do you guys do at a base level? Let's go with Gary. How do you answer that one?
Yeah, so simple terms, factoring is going to be purchasing accounts receivables at a discounted price. So for the people that are just getting started, you deliver the load. Once you deliver the load, you get that invoice. Now you're waiting to get paid, typically 30 or 60 days to get paid on that invoice. When you factor, you partner with us. We purchase that invoice from you for a discounted price, and we pay you the same day or the next day. You get to do what you do best, drive, and we help you with the cash flow. Then we wait the 30 to 60 days to collect those payments.
Right. All right. So that's good to know. But of course, it's at a fee. And, do you guys have any typical rates, and how do you actually come up with your rates?
Yeah, I'll let Cam jump in on the rates.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what we like to take into consideration is a number of different things. Primarily, the monthly volume that is expected that a carrier does. We start there and gauge it. Typically, 1-2 truck operations, kind of fall in the same ballpark of rate that we can offer. Depending on the equipment type, it can vary. But then, also something that we like to take into consideration is going to be the customers that the carrier is running through. Because as a company grows and adds more trucks, they may need to run through a wider variety of customers. Some of those customers may have longer pay terms than what the, industry standard for brokerages are. So we always like to kind of, look at the company and evaluate what they're doing, who they're running through, how much volume they're doing, and really structure the program around that business. When it comes down to it is, no two businesses are the same, right? So to just have, to paint it with such a broad brush is difficult to do. There's more things to take into consideration. We also offer, multiple different types of programs, the non-recourse and the recourse. There's pros, cons to each side of those. And typically the non-recourse does come at a little bit higher of a premium than our recourse program, just due to the fact of the liability we're taking off the carrier's plate. Also, the I guess the effort that the carrier may have to put in on the billing and the collecting side, or more of like the collecting side on recourse, they may have to get more involved on that side of things than they would on the non-recourse side. So it varies, but it all just comes down to the operation and what they've got going.
Gotcha. I did want to talk about recourse versus non-recourse, but before we leave this actual topic, I just want to know, is it, let's just say that it is a mom and pop shop, or let's just say smaller than that, somebody that's fresh, brand new, doesn't even have his truck yet, but is looking to do it. Is it, how much does personal credit, play a part in those folks who are looking? Sorry about that. I had to say bye-bye to a phone call. But basically, I was asking, how much is, excuse me, I kind of lost my train of thought for a second. When it comes down to the personal credit of the trucker or the actual brokerage. If there's a brokerage that is looking to factor with you guys, how much does the personal credit play into that?
The personal credit, none whatsoever. We don't run our carrier's credit. In order to do so, you would need a social security number, and we don't ask for that upon setting up. Our mindset at the end of the day, we don't care about our carrier's credit. The credit that we care about is going to be the customers that we're expecting to pay us. So that they could have the greatest credit score in the entire world. They could have the worst credit score in the entire world. Makes no difference to us because we are not collecting from the carrier. We're collecting from the customer. And then, I'll let Gary talk on more from the credit perspective from the customer.
Yeah. So credit from the customer side for us is going to be very important. Our company is one of the best in the industry to do it. We check our customers daily. For those of you as well on the call, maybe on like the DAT load board and you see the check marks and stuff like that, that's going to be a partnership through OTR where we have vetted those customers to make sure that they are in good standing. What we're going to be looking for is the average days to pay. How quickly are you turning around your payments? If it's within that 30, 45 day window, that's going to be good. How long have they been in business as well is going to be another big thing for us. Typically in this industry, you will see if you're going to go out of business, it happens in the first year. So for us, one criteria, we like to make sure customers and debtors that we're working with have been in business for longer than a year. We also like to check and see how many people they're actually paying. How many people are they reporting to? Typically for us, we like them to be reporting to a good number of people to show that credit across multiple platforms and not just like, hey, I'm paying this one person good, but can you pay multiple people consistently? And then outside of that as well, just making sure that we can get a good billing process in place. Some of these people that we work with have a very good structure. They say, hey, like submit your invoices to this place. We'll turn around, give you an email, let you know we got it, stuff like that. And then some other customers a little bit harder to figure out. But that's our thing at OTR, making sure that we really cover those four things on the front end when we start working with these customers and debtors that we partner with.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Jory, I'd like to kind of talk on the customer credit side a little bit. Don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah. Go for it, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I would like, everybody to know, I don't know what this audience consists of, whether it's, new people in the industry, people thinking about getting into the industry, but I cannot stress the importance of our credit department to our operation. And as a trucker or somebody running a trucking company, that you need to take that same mindset into how you operate your business. This industry is extremely vulnerable to fraud. There's a lot of people in the industry wanting to make a dollar off of somebody else's hard work. Most commonly, double brokering scams that we see. So just knowing the customer that you're running through, that they have good established credit is extremely important. Right? I had a carrier that tried to submit an invoice, their very first load that they ran under their authority. We weren't able to factor it because this broker that they ran it through had multiple reports of fraud and double brokering. So I took matters into my own hands. I reached out to the shipper and asked who the actual broker was on the load, and it was not the broker that they got the load from. So, imagine starting your operation off, very first load you run is through, a fraudulent company, and you got to wait on that money if you're ever going to get it. So, whether you factor or whether you don't factor, just be cautious about who you are dealing with and who you're running freight through. Because there's a lot of people preying on new people in the industry, just hoping that they'll take their load and make it easy.
Okay. Hey, so thank you so much for, mentioning that, because there are a lot of scamsters, a lot of people scamming out here in this industry. And if you ever submitted to get an MC, you know exactly what we're talking about. The moment you submit for your MC, you get entered in this database and you start getting flooded with phone calls of all type of folks saying what you have to do and how it's required and how they are the best to do it and they're the authority to do it. So you're right, brother. There is a lot of scamming that's going on. So you do have to be mindful. Definitely use that credit check tool that they have on their portal. I use it as a dispatcher. Actually, every single time I'm doing a credit check, and I have carriers, who don't even, who have other factoring companies, but the one that I'm actually using as my base for credit checks is the one on the OTR portal. So I love
hearing that, Jory. And
yeah,
I will have to do a little plug here for OTR. Just, we simplify things. Some factoring companies still require that you call or email in. They don't have the tech built to make that easier. We've got a mobile app and an online portal where it's as simple as typing in that broker's MC number, company name. It'll pop up and tell you right away if they're approved or not. And a newly formed relationship. We are, the preferred partner of the DAT load board now. So if you do see that, if you click into a load and you see factor this load with a check mark next to that, that means that's an OTR Capital approved customer. And whether you're using us or not, I would recommend using that as your base as vetting these customers out, because again, we put a lot of resources into our credit system and monitoring that. So that's good information that you can.
Oh yeah. Shout out to you guys for that. That deal, what was that, finalized back in August of this year?
Yeah, I believe so, about 3.5 months ago or so, something like that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was very ecstatic to read that on Freight Waves. I think I even gave Grace and JMac a text message saying congratulations, because that's huge. So
Gary, did you get a text?
My bad.
I didn't get one either.
Hey, you guys are going to get one on the next go around. Something amazing happens. But no, I appreciate you for bringing that up, because that's very important. That saves so much time as a dispatcher and or fleet owner when you're booking those loads and you're seeing the brokerage as somebody who's trustworthy. So you don't have to take that extra step, because as we all know, if you're booking those loads, every second is precious. Every second is precious, because there are a million people who want that load. And now, not only once you get on the phone, you have to get the rate that you want. So, it's all about timing to put yourself in a better position to even, win the load with the rate that you want. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy, pleased to hear that about that partnership. And, so the reason I was kind of like bringing that up is because I know that there are these very, very, very small brokerages and some even large brokerages that don't necessarily meet whatever you guys need in order to be factorable. What are some things that you feel as though a brokerage can do right now to better themselves, like put themselves in a better spot to be more factorable? And before you answer that question, I'm gonna preface it with this. I use a brokerage that I am very, very, very confident in every single day. I move freight with them every single day. And here's the thing. OTR Capital does not say that they're factorable. Neither does a few other factoring companies. But I'm talking about these people are fat cats. These are not no small folks. But what does somebody need to do in order to show themselves as credit worthy to be factorable?
That's a great question. I'll jump in here. And I love how you mentioned as well that this customer is one that OTR has on no buy, and some other factoring companies, it seems like, as well. So for me, Drew, you can send me their MC number. I'll look them up and check them for you. But outside of that, really is going to boil down to communication. I think communication is a very big thing. There can be brokers out there that have phenomenal rates. let's get people on these loads. The rate looks good. But when it comes to reaching out to that customer, reaching out to their accounting department, you can't get anybody on the phone.
Right.
They're super busy and it takes forever to get them. Or when you need to follow up on an issue, because you all know how trucking is, everything isn't always perfect.
Right.
Sometimes there might be a shortage here. There might be a damage here. There might be things that we need on our side to really confirm on the front end before we move forward. And our biggest thing is the coverage for you all. Like if we're going in and we're your factoring company, we're purchasing the invoices. I tell all my carriers, I can't remember what I did last week. So I don't expect you to do it either. So I want to get it right on day one, so I don't have to come back to you down the road and be like, hey, like, Drew, you remember when you turned this invoice in, it was messed up? Like, no, let's get it right. So some of those customers, like, it just comes down to communication. They can't get it right on the front end. And because of that, a lot of people, other factoring companies just can't work with them because we cannot build that rapport. We cannot establish good payment methods. We can't establish what we need to fund and to move forward. So that's a big thing for me, communication. Cam, would you add anything? Or?
Yeah, I would. I mean, and it kind of goes a little bit with the communication, but more like transparency, right? Industry standard is the net 30 pay terms, and that's what most brokers are advertising as their pay terms. If you're coming out saying my net pay terms are 30 days, but you're paying in 48, paying in 50 days, you know, what's going on there, right? I mean, it's a huge difference there, you know, more than a 2-week difference in what you're telling us versus what's actually happening. Right, if you come out and say, you know, it's, one of my customers is paying a little bit slower, it's you know, going to be about net 48, and you communicate well, may be more likely to, keep you on the approved list or whatever the case is. So just transparency, communication, and sticking to kind of what you advertise and what you say.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are some very, very great points. Like I said, I've been fighting for this one because I do a lot of business with these folks. I'm talking about a great amount. And we've gotten to the point where some of their invoices have gotten approved, but they were kind of just like, I reached out to JMac and they said, all right, give them, do factor a few of these or something like that. But I want to get it so that it's every single time. But that is something that I wanted to ask because I know a lot of brand new brokers too, so I just want to make sure that they have this information so that they can be more attractive when posting their loads on the load boards as well. But you guys did mention something earlier that kind of, is kind of directly related to this. You said that, Gary, you said that you want to make sure that when you do this, that you're doing it right on day one because you can't remember what you ate last week. And, that kind of goes back to how I wanted to talk about the differences between what recourse and non-recourse is, so I know that you guys offer both, but can you please tell the difference, describe the difference of what a recourse program is versus what a non-recourse program is? Oh, my bad. Cam or Gary, my bad.
Go ahead, Gary.
Go for it, Cam.
I'll piggyback after.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so non-recourse, Cam mentioned it a little bit earlier as well. Non-recourse is when we have more of the ownership and the liability with you. So let's say if a broker goes out of business, goes bankrupt or something like that, and we've purchased that invoice, we're not going to charge it back to you. The thing that I like to cover as well, if it's non-recourse or if it's recourse, the misconception, some people are like, you buy everything. Our biggest thing, like I mentioned, we want to make sure it is good on the front end. So if there is a good invoice, no damages, no claims, no issues, and we purchase it on the non-recourse side, you do not have to expect that invoice to ever charge back to you or come back to you. You have that protection. Now, on the recourse side, you will have a time frame. Typically, it's going to be set in your terms where they say, hey, like if it doesn't pay within, call it 90 days, then that invoice will charge back to you. So on the recourse side, you do have more responsibility of checking in on your aging, making sure that those customers are paying in a good time fashion, and you have a little bit more risk as well with the customers that you can work with because you are assuming the responsibility. So on the non-recourse side is going to be a little bit stricter list because we're going to make sure that they are good vetted customers. But on the recourse side, you do have a little bit more flexibility because you are going to be involved a little bit more, like Cam mentioned, lower rates, stuff like that because of those benefits. Cam, what would you add to that? I know you see it more so on the sell side day to day than I do.
Yeah. So, most this kind of goes back to the misconceptions. I'm asked all the time, or am told all the time, that a carrier heard through the grapevine that the non-recourse does not exist. It's not real. Like, we're going to charge back at 90 days, blah, blah, blah. And the reason that is because there are companies out there in the space marketing and selling their program as a non-recourse. When you really look at the nitty gritty of that contract, it's a different story. It's actually a recourse program. And the way that they get around that is their non-recourse protects you in the event of broker insolvency or broker bankruptcy. And one thing to keep in mind, these factoring companies aren't going to purchase everything. And this is where the credit department comes into play. If one of these brokers is headed towards bankruptcy, that writing is going to be on the wall. They're going to see that far ahead of time, and they're going to put that customer on no buy. So the protection that you're getting on our competitors' non-recourse is very, very minimal, and your contract will tell you that. I even saw one contract recently where it said something along the lines that they must file with, like, the United States Bankruptcy Code within or prior to the due date of an invoice. We all know the due date of an invoice is 30 days from when the factoring company purchases it. So that broker must file for bankruptcy within the 30 days that the factoring company purchased the invoice, and then you've got to go file with the bankruptcy enforcement code or whatever it is in that first 30 days. It's unlikely, it's impossible. You got a better chance at seeing a unicorn. So that is one of the misconceptions, that there's a lot of companies offering non-recourse, and then also the misconception that non-recourse does not exist. It does exist. OTR Capital offers it, but you just got to make sure that you don't mistake a short pay for not being covered by non-recourse.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. So look, let me ask this. It seems as though it's a benefit to be able to be a part of that non-recourse program. So, like, are there any additional things that a carrier must have in place in order to qualify for that?
No, nothing really that they must qualify for. Typically when I'm onboarding a new carrier, particularly if they have a fleet of a few trucks, the only thing that I would want to take a look at is the customers that they're running through, because the last thing that I would want to do is onboard somebody onto a non-recourse program, but they're running through nothing but direct shippers who we can't purchase on a non-recourse basis. And then what good are we serving there? We got to change their whole product. I just been selling on non-recourse, then we can't even offer it. So it's kind of looking into the operation and the customers that they're running through. But nothing really specific that they need to do or they need to have in place aside from the customers they're running.
Okay, so you just said something that kind of piqued my interest. What is the deal with factoring direct shippers, versus, I guess, going through a brokerage? What changes when it comes to the way that you guys are able to factor the stuff?
Yeah, so from time to time, a lot of the processes will look the same. I know this is one question that we hear from time to time, and it goes back to, one, credit worthiness. That shipper, the direct shipper that we're working with, are they a good payer as well? We're going to be looking at that and grade them on the same standards. And with them as well, we know sometimes that their days to pay could be a little bit different. So the broker, the 3PL, might be paying in 30 days, but this direct shipper, their main focus isn't paying like a 3PL would. So their days might be 45, or it might be closer to 60. So we have to look at those things and make sure that we're staying on top of them. The billing process as well sometimes is going to be different for a direct shipper. So a 3PL, they're going to have the standard rate confirmation and the POD for every invoice. A direct shipper, it might be a little bit different because you may be moving some other kind of loads. You might be moving weighted stuff that has scale tickets involved, and that's all they need when you're submitting for invoices. So it's like, what is that billing process going to be? How can we prove that something has delivered and we can pay on it? And then outside of that as well, it's just going to go down to good contacts at these companies and these direct shippers as well, because their business model is different than the 3PL. So it's just like, we still want to make sure if we're going to work with them, we have somebody there that we can contact if we need to get everything verified for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was a great way of answering that question. And you kind of answered the question that I wanted to ask about, these carrier contract situations. Some of the folks who are listening in, maybe you heard this term or maybe you haven't, but they say you got to work 2 weeks in the hole. All right. And you're like, 2 weeks in the hole. What does that even mean? That means that, hey, you're going to have to work on faith and expect to get paid in 2 weeks. So everything that you did for the very first week, you're going to get paid 2 weeks from then. And then from there, it's going to be a rolling payment every week. But you got to put in the work up front in order to, get that going. So in those situations, what would you need? You would need just BOLs to say what actually got delivered each one of those days so that one of your clients didn't have to wait that entire time? Like, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So for us, we're going to be trying to figure out what do we have to prove that commodity was actually delivered. Okay. We know in this market, things are changing. So sometimes it could be electronic and it's not a paper copy like it used to be in years past. But whatever it is, we need to know what are they going to be looking for to prove that the load actually delivered. And I know we talked about this as well. Like, I love the contracts. I love them because up front, when they move a load from A to B, this is how much they're going to get paid every time. And the contract is going to last for this duration of time. So we know immediately up front what we can expect as far as the amount. The second thing is going to be, okay, if they're going to get paid, what are you going to be looking for in order to make that payment possible? Is it a POD? Is it scale tickets? Is it, right now we're seeing a lot of people move mail. Is it going to be the $53.98 that you need? What do you need to make that payment possible? So does that kind of answer your question there?
Yeah, definitely it does. And, even with this situation that I got going on right now, I basically have box trucks delivering e-commerce stuff, basically for FedEx. But they kind of switched it up. They went from saying that we were going to do paper manifests, which is something that we could easily provide to a factoring company, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're going to get paid for all these." To now, it is electronic using those scanners, so it's not as readily accessible to send over to a factoring company. But you're basically saying as long as you have some type of proof, carriers wouldn't have to wait that 2 weeks in the hole. So,
yeah. And we'll try to figure out as well and work with you. If it is electronic, we want to see, do we have access to this system? How is it changing? Like, when is it finalized? Who's the person that's finalizing it? Is it a broker? Is it a carrier themselves? Stuff like that. If the billing process is different than the normal rate con bill of lading process, then we just have to figure out what it's going to look like on our side. And I think OTR does a pretty good job of that as well. We don't like telling people no. We don't like telling people that we can't factor anything. So 9 times out of 10, we're going to try to figure out if there is a way to do it. And if there is, then we'll definitely make it possible for our clients.
Okay, great. And look, I know that we've kind of transitioned away, but I did want to get this question off because you mentioned chargebacks. All right. So look, tell me what a chargeback is, and then tell me what it means or what a chargeback date signifies. If you can do those things, we can go ahead and say we're good on those topics. Yep.
So chargeback is going to be, and we'll use round numbers. So today I purchased an invoice from you for $1,000 and I send it over to the broker. and I expect to get paid on it in 30 days. For some reason, with past the 30-day mark and they have not paid my company, we followed up and we're trying to figure out what's the payment status. When are we going to get it? No communication. So now you've hit your chargeback date that you mentioned. Let's say your chargeback date is 90 days. We've now reached 90 days. The invoice has not been paid by the broker. So you will have that invoice charged back to you based upon your terms. So the chargeback is just that invoice. You're purchasing it back from us. So sometimes it could be purchasing from your accounts, like from your payment schedule that day, or you could send the funds over to the factoring company for it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I appreciate you so much for mentioning that, because I felt like that was just something people needed to know. That chargeback date is going to be in your contract, and it's not going to vary by broker. It's just going to be specifically in your contract, correct?
Yep. And we will definitely let you know. I know as well, I mentioned it already, but I managed on the recourse side. We try to be very, very transparent with everything. You see your aging up front. I used to tell my clients, I hate surprises. I want you to know ahead of time. So if an invoice reaches day 45 and it hasn't paid, I'm already communicating with you, and I know the rest of our team does it as well, letting you know. We have automated messages in place as well that send you emails and say, hey, it's nearing your date. Like, you might want to check on it and see what's going on. Our business model is not charging back. Like I said, our business model is making sure we get it right on the front end, so we can move forward and keep you guys running. I hate chargeback, so we do everything in our power. Our collections team is one of the best in the industry as well, making sure that we touch these invoices, we see what's going on, and we can provide an answer for you and let you know to do everything in our possible to avoid that chargeback.
All right. So look, either one of you guys can field this question, but basically, how does it benefit a dispatcher to have a relationship with OTR Capital?
Yeah, real quick, just wanted to kind of go back to the chargeback real quick.
Okay,
Jory.
go for it, brother.
What I would recommend, as you know, carriers dealing with other factoring companies, if you are experiencing chargebacks, what I do see more often than not, when a carrier is experiencing chargebacks, it's typically due to an issue on the billing side of the broker not receiving the full invoice or an invoice at all. You know, a lot of these customers are very strongly vetted and have good payment history, so there's not many instances where they should be reaching that 90-day threshold. So, you know, what a lot of the carriers that I talk with that aren't using OTR began doing is double billing once to the factoring company and billing once to the broker. So, you know, if you are experiencing chargebacks and you aren't using OTR Capital, I would recommend you in those instances, contact the broker, you know, maybe even before it gets to that chargeback date. You're at the 60, 65 day mark. Give them a call. They'll tell you exactly what needs to be done in order for that load to be paid on. Odds are they're missing a piece of paperwork, don't know where to remit payment to, something along those lines. But yeah, just wanted to add that on there. As far as dispatching goes, you know, I think the biggest part of working with a company like OTR, and this goes across any part of the transportation industry, it's a way to network. We're all connected in one way or the other, and we can all benefit from each other somehow, right? So I like to connect with dispatchers because I have a lot of carriers that I do onboard and may not want to do their dispatching. They may be a company driver and have never done their dispatching. I've always had somebody else tell them where to go. They don't care to do it. They just want to drive, right? So in those cases, I'd like to have trustworthy, reliable dispatchers that I can feel confident in referring a carrier over to, because a carrier's success is our success, right? If they're not able to move their truck, that does us no good. So it's important for me to have relationships like that to connect them with. And then the tables turn, as a dispatcher, having a good, let me go back there real quick. It's a referral source, right? A way to be connected with carriers without having to make the cold calls, through, marketing, whatever the case is. It's a relationship that you've created that could benefit your business. And then also, having a good, reliable place to send carriers, right? If you are onboarding a carrier as a dispatcher, you don't want to refer them to a factoring company that's not going to do right by them or make your job more difficult as a dispatcher, because you may be doing the carrier's invoicing and you've got to be the one to communicate these messages as maybe why they're not being paid, could make you look like the bad guy or girl. So having a good place to refer carriers to, just makes you look better. I've had plenty of instances in my past or in my sales experience of referring carriers to an insurance company, to an equipment financing company, to a dispatcher where they had a terrible experience and I ended up losing the deal or that carrier's business because of it. So having trustworthy places you can refer carriers to when they have a certain need is going to go a long way.
And I'll add as well, I'll jump in. You've mentioned it already on this call, checking brokers. I think for dispatchers, it's good to have a reliable place where you can go and check the credit of these brokers before you're booking your carriers on their loads. Hey, this is a good customer, or maybe we need to shy away from this relationship with this broker because they don't pay, or, whatever it might be. Outside of that as well, OTR is very good working with dispatchers. We even help getting you paid. So if you set up with us and your carriers are factoring with OTR, we're able to actually hold the dispatching fee out of those invoices for you, and we pay you weekly. So you don't have to worry about trying to track down the carriers to get paid. We help you with that. So just put a plug in right there.
Not to mention, we do have the functionality to offer dispatchers their own, portal with their own username and password, where say you have a few carriers that, you're dispatching for that factor with OTR, you can go into your portal and you're doing their invoicing. On the invoicing tab, you'll have a drop-down menu that you can click and select the carrier that you are invoicing for. So instead of having to keep, different usernames and passwords to these different portals for all these carriers, you keep one login, one username, one password where you can, service all of these carriers through. So that's been a huge, pro for dispatchers and working with it.
Okay, so thank you so much. And I just want to throw this out there that, I have some phenomenal carriers. I mean, people who, I would invite to my Thanksgiving dinner because they're just great people and they're folks who I just like. So I've never had this issue, but if you guys are dispatchers and you're just a little, hesitant about, having to get your money directly from your carrier, OTR Capital is one of those folks that will pay you directly. So, that's another reason why you want to have that relationship, is because you can get that set up. It has to be legit, obviously, but, it's just one less thing that you have to worry about. So, yeah, like I said, I never really had to think about it just because my carriers are very, very amazing folks. But that is a added benefit of using a factoring company that, honors a dispatcher's role in selecting, all this freight that carrier is moving. So, thank you, fellas, for fielding that question. It seems like it is, a pretty simple, straightforward process to get set up. What type of paperwork is necessary in order for a carrier or a broker to get set up with factoring services from OTR Capital?
Yeah, it's, just some basic documents. A lot of those, you'll need when, filling out a carrier packet with a broker to haul their freight. A completed application, a completed agreement, ownership driver's license, a W-9, ownership documentation. Obviously, we want to make sure that the person we're setting up, or that's setting the company up with OTR, is authorized to do so, and they are in fact the owner of the business, and a certificate of insurance. So, a few basic documents. It can be done in so much as a day, depending on a few variables, but it's typically a quick and painless process.
Gotcha. Is there a minimum amount a carrier must factor with OTR Capital each month?
No minimum. You can use us as little or as much as you'd like. And I make sure to stress that to carriers whenever I'm dealing with them, because, at the end of the day, there are other options for funding that a carrier may be able to take advantage of, or even, Amazon, Uber, these companies pay weekly. And so we don't want a carrier, or they pay weekly at no cost. So we don't want a carrier thinking in the back of their mind that, they must meet this minimum, so they got to give up these percentages of their invoices that they're running, right? They should be able to just keep on their own in order to avoid penalties and extra fees from OTR. And not to mention, this is an industry where breakdowns happen. Trucks need to go into the shop. People want to take vacations. Who are we to charge somebody more when cash flow is not as abundant? If anybody is considering a factoring company and they are implementing monthly minimums, I would recommend not signing up with that company or attempting to negotiate to remove that, because that is not it's not a part of the program that's there to benefit the carrier. It's only there to put more money in the factoring company's pocket, which doesn't make sense to us. It's not there to help the carrier, but just help the factoring company.
Okay. Well, if you don't have a monthly minimum, but another factoring company does have a monthly minimum, can that carrier have both of you guys factoring for their loads at the same time?
No, you can only have one factoring company, and there's just a little conflict of interest there. If that wasn't the case, there would be, we'd be setting ourselves up for, to be taken advantage of. A carrier billing one invoice to both factoring companies, and just the nature of the funding, will only allow one factoring company in place.
All right. Yeah. So thank you for explaining why you could only have one factoring company at a time. So, at the end of the day, some companies, let's just say a carrier might already be involved with one factoring company, but they might be on this call right now and they might decide to click on that link that's been at the top and say, you know what, I want to transition over to OTR Capital. Are there like fees associated with that transition at times? And, if so, why do factoring companies have fees to get out your contract?
So I want to, this is a good opportunity for me to tell everybody in this room, that whether you're considering factoring or currently are, to familiarize yourself with your contract as best that you can, because that will tell you all the details that you need to know if you do ever want to transition away, of how to do it. 99% of the carriers that I talk with have no idea when their contract ends, when their notice needs to be submitted. I do my best to kind of walk them through that process and help them with it. But it's a very possible thing. Carriers are able to transition away. Depends on when they're leaving, when they want to do that. You need to honor the contract that has been put in place. Most factoring companies will have some sort of early termination in that contract. But as long as you abide by what that contract states, where let's just say it's a year-long term, notice needs to be submitted 60 days ahead of time. If you do that, you submit that notice at the end of that year, you'll be able to transition away at no cost to you. And companies do have early termination fees in there. Similar to, most contracts, that people sign, there's, a responsibility of both parties to uphold, the terms of that contract. There's time, effort, money put into putting that together, servicing accounts. I guess a lot of companies, will implement those early termination fees to prevent that from happening. Also getting a fair opportunity to prove themselves as a good factoring solution that can help their business. But some factoring companies have astronomical, termination fees in their contracts. And when I see that typically just tells me that it's a way to kind of trap people in and prevent them from being able to leave early.
Agreed. I hate to see that type of stuff. And, the fact is, I do know that you guys buy people out, but is there a price that's too high? Is it a matter of, I see that this right here is a potentially big business opportunity, so I'll take a huge payout. Or excuse me, a buyout that to get that client, or is there just a number that OTR Capital is like, no, that's just ridiculous?
As long as it makes sense, for us financially, we don't want to, pay an early termination fee that's going to take us, a year to recoup, right? But we like to consider everything and get an idea of what that early termination fee would be, how much that carrier's factoring on a monthly basis, the percentage that they are agreeing to. I've had instances in the past where we've agreed to pay an early termination fee where we, in order to do so, we raise the carrier's rate for the first 30 or 60 days by like 0.5% or 1% to kind of make that a little bit easier for us to do, where, both parties are, coming out of pocket for that early termination fee to an extent. But it's not one big blow to the carrier at once. It's stretched out over a 60-day period. But, I've had instances where we've paid, a couple $1,000s of our own money, did not recoup it from the carrier at any time. That was just, we want to work with you. We're willing to pay this, and it makes sense for us.
I got you. Cool. Well, look, let me tell this story. All right. This is a dispatch client of mine, somebody that was very, very early in my dispatch experience as an entrepreneur. The brother was moving, man. To even tell this story, I don't even know how we got here, but he was moving freight. He stayed busy doing Amazon and daily work in his area. And, everybody that is in the industry that has a truck or is a dispatcher, how very sacred it is, that MC tenure. How long have you had your MC? That number, that date is very, very sacred. A lot of brokers, they don't want to mess with folks who are brand new, so one of those big milestones is 30 days. The next one is 60 days. The other is, you got to be active for 3 months. Now we got, one of my good colleagues in this industry, their brokerage is 4 months. I'm like, come on, but so then it goes up to 6 months, and then finally a year. This brother was beyond a year. And, I'm not sure how the money management went, but, his insurance lapsed. And what that does, you got to have active authority consistently. And, that basically put him back down to day one, square one, really. It's all about relationships. And, in that type of scenario, he wasn't factoring with OTR Capital. But, is that the type of thing? Do you guys work with carriers on a personal level like that to say, hey, I see that this is something that you need help with. Maybe we can come up with some type of terms. But, the fact that it happened to him, I was very, very just hurt for this brother. Is that something that you guys would, kind of be open to discussing, to front maybe a cost of an insurance payment? Is that something that you guys would do if, you're valuing the relationship of your carriers?
Hey, I'll jump in here. So for us, that's a great question. It is not going to be common practice. I will say for some clients, like Cam said, if it makes sense, if it's something that we're able to really help them on and save the business, then we can. But that's just not common practice for us. We will kind of try to help out as well, like I mentioned as well. Emails and sending out the reminders and notification. Hey, you're getting to this time. Make sure you get your stuff taken care of. We will definitely try to help out that way if we can. But that's one thing that can be tough. But I will just say it's not common practice. But if we can and if it makes sense, then we will.
I got you, man. I know it was very specific. I just was very, very, I was very hurt for this dude because, I was hoping that somebody could step in and help them, but
Yeah.
I just know that we all need help at times, so I just figured I'd pose that question.
Well, and that's not to say that it's never happened and won't ever happen. We have done it before.
Yep.
We do. Our sister company is Marquee Insurance Group.
Right.
We're highly more likely to help in the event that you're using them for insurance. And we do offer, if you are factoring with OTR and have been for a certain period of time, and you're getting your insurance through them, we're willing to help with some down payment assistance, things like that. But there is a priority of us to help our carriers as best we can, but do it within reason and kind of evaluate the situation, as Gary said. Because at the end of the day, we always have a ton of money outstanding at any given moment, hundreds of millions of dollars. So, we have to do what we can to protect our money, but then also, help our carriers in times that they do need it.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. You definitely got to cover, your own business first. Again, like I said, I wouldn't ask anybody else that because I just know how personal it is, but because you guys are basically family, I just had to throw it on you real quick. So I guess on a lighter note, do you guys have any personal goals or any goals for OTR Capital that you guys want to mention? Either one of you can, or you don't necessarily have to. But is there anything that you're looking towards in the near future?
Yeah. Go for it, Cam. I'll let you start.
No, all you, Gary.
Yeah, so for us, really, like you've already been mentioning tonight, we want to continue to be a partner for our clients. We are in a very unique space, and we love this space. We're able to still help the smaller guys, the 1 to 5 truckers, and we love doing that. That's our bread and butter. For us as well, we just want to be able to put out other resources and tools to help them be successful at their business. So we've mentioned a few of those things, like the partnership with the DAT load board, other things in our portfolio as well, helping with rate per mile, helping with, fuel prices and stuff like that. We want to be a one-stop shop. So for us, I know OTR wants to be number one in this space. Like what we've been able to accomplish over the last 10 years is phenomenal, but we're not comfortable. We're not content. And every day we ask ourselves, how do we get better? And I think that's our focus. Some other companies like, how do we add more to the bottom line? How do we add more profit? Our questions are, how do we put out a better service for our clients? If we had to restart today and compete against OTR as we consider them to be the best, how would we win? How do we put a team together to win in that scenario? In our office as well, we talk about it a lot. If we had to boil it back down to just 5 or 10 people and restart, who would be on that winning team? So I think our people have that mentality of like, I want to be on that team if we had to do it all over again to build a business from the ground up. And we're very competitive. We're very ambitious, but our focus is our client. It's not just money, but it's like, how can we be better for them? How can we provide services and solutions to help them? Personally, outside of that, for me, I just love helping. I love helping truck drivers. My grandfather was a driver. My dad was a driver. So I had kind of a relationship to the industry with not really knowing what logistics was until I fully got into it. So for me, every day, it's eye-opening. I love being in a position to make an impact in people's lives. I tell my team constantly, you never know what that money is going to be for during the season. Getting that invoice paid could mean you're helping people get a gift under the Christmas tree. So do whatever you can in your power to make sure we can purchase that invoice. It's never a client that's too small or too big for us. We help everybody the same. So that's me. I'll let Cam jump in.
Yeah, for sure. And so, as a personal goal and a company goal, they kind of coincide together. OTR, Jory, I'm sure you've heard, we are opening up an office out in Phoenix, Arizona, to kind of, get out there in the West and, operate off those hours a little bit more and build more of a presence out there. And I was one of the employees that they had asked to to kind of go out there as the first group to assist in building that office out. So that big time personal goal of mine is to get out there. I'm moving in January and really put my all into building that office out, establishing that West Coast presence, and just bringing more carriers on board that need assistance and that we can help, and creating more and more successful trucking companies out there, while also, fueling this economy that needs it so desperately. So big time personal goal is get out there to Arizona and create a, office out there the size of the one we got now.
Oh, that's awesome, brother. Congratulations. I didn't know that was where you're going, but congrats.
I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to it. I've never been. I haven't visited yet, just kind of, shooting at the hip, going out there. One of my buddies is down in the audience. He's applying here at OTR. He's actually got an interview tomorrow. I told him, I said, hey, get in here. You'll learn a lot. That's Joe down there in the audience, trying to get him out to Arizona.
Oh, that is awesome, man. So look, this is what I hear. I hear it's growing fast as all. I don't want to curse up here, but it's growing. I hear the city is growing, that it's beautiful. But I hear it's hot. So be prepared, man. I hear it's super hot.
That's why Gary is not going. I've been multiple times. And it's different than the Atlanta heat for sure.
Yeah. I've experienced some heat in my day. I worked out in Afghanistan for a bit. And if it's anything like that, I don't need to go back, brother. I don't need to go at all. So, yeah.
Let me just say, in the summertime, the pools are not even cool. You get in them and it's just like, it's just water around you. It's not cold at all.
It's bath water.
It's bath water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've been told I'm very fortunate for the timing of when I'll get out there, because I'll get to experience like the most beautiful time in Arizona. But come June, it's going to be tough. A different world out there. But I think my dog will hate it more than I do. I got a big black Rottweiler, so he's gonna be struggling out there.
No, I hear you, man. Well, look, if there's anything I can do to make that smoother for you, you just let me know. But you got it, man. Godspeed to you. But truth be told, that was my questions. I can ask some random things, but I feel like we got a good base on the 101 level of what factoring is. I know that we had somebody raise their hand. If you guys had any questions, feel free to go ahead and raise your hands. These folks here, these brothers, they're more than willing and very knowledgeable, so they can answer these questions. So I'm going to see if this person is still available. Let's try to pull them up. But yeah, I just want to say, Cam, you got it, brother. Gary, I appreciate you, brother. Now we have our first guest on the stage. His name is also Gary. Welcome to the stage, Gary. How you feeling today, brother?
Doing good. Hey, I just had a quick question. So I factor with OTR Capital on the carrier side, but I also own a brokerage. Is there anything that you can do as far as like with the credit check? Because I'm not really using the brokerage with credit with OTR right now. So when it goes to get checked, it's not factorable. Is there anything that can be done with the carrier side if it's showing like $30,000 to $40,000 a month?
So, you're asking it. So your carrier side factors with us, but the brokerage side is not, and you're wanting to know if there's a possibility of approving the brokerage side, because you're showing it's not approved when you check your credit with us. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So how long have you been active, and how long have you been operating your brokerage, Gary?
3 years.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. That would definitely be a question for our credit department. And if you'd like, shoot me over an email. My email address is in my description, my bio, whatever you want to call it. Shoot me over an email, and I'll take a look tomorrow, get your info over to our credit department and see if there's any workaround there. I do know the most efficient way to, be approved through OTR as a brokerage, is to actually, factor with us. And that wouldn't require you factoring your entire book of business with us. It could be one of your customers, that you factor with us, and you would show as an approved customer. It's tough for me to say without having a better idea of what your what we're seeing on your end from a credit perspective.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Gary, thank you so much for coming up. You always come through to support the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Were there any other questions? And, Gary and Cam, if you know that we kind of missed anything, or if you had anything off the top of your head that you just wanted to just let us know, feel free. But I'm not sure if we have any more questions. I think we had a couple, but they kind of dropped off. So, did you guys have anything that you wanted to leave us with, maybe that we didn't talk about?
I just remind people, kind of like Cam just said, our contact information is going to be in our bio. If you are interested and you listen to these calls, make sure you use the link that's provided here as well, so Jury can get some credit if you are coming to sign up with OTR. Even if you, like Cam mentioned, you're in a contract with somebody else right now and you just have questions and you want to figure out what's going on, what it will look like, you can give us a call as well. We'd be glad to help you. We're here. We want to be a resource in the industry. And that's what we want to do. Want to give a shout out to Mark as well and Ashley, some people I see in the room tonight that I know. Good to see y'all in here with us.
Yeah, I mean, I just cannot emphasize, just do your research if you are considering factoring. Know what you're getting yourself into. I deal with carriers that have no idea, right? And a lot of the stuff that I hear, the negative connotations that come along with factoring, that I hear that carriers have, maybe something that they're dealing with currently, or something that has caused them to never consider factoring, would have been a non-issue if they had familiarized themselves with the contract that they were signing, who they were working with, and did that research. The internet is a wealth of information. Use it to your advantage. Use it as a tool to vet these factoring companies out. When you're on the phone talking with these folks and getting those just generic emails with the details of the program, it's going to be painted in the most beautiful light that they can, that they can. So, take what you're hearing with a grain of salt, do your own personal research, read contracts. If a company won't send you a sample contract or won't send you a contract without filling out an application, that's a red flag. And it just tells me they got something to hide, right? So just do your research, know what you're signing, familiarize yourself, consider multiple options, and reach out to me if you need anything. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm not trying to get you to switch to OTR, but I do know a lot of carriers deal with a lot of issues with different factoring companies, and I would just like to help work through those problems, maybe provide some solutions to resolve those. But, I do appreciate you having us on here, Jory. This is an awesome thing to do. I'd love to do it again, but I know you got a million other topics you got to cover over the coming weeks.
Right. Well, hey, gentlemen, thank you both for those closing remarks. I do want to do this sometime again, probably to go into more in-depth situations, so that, maybe you could talk about some of the quirkier side of things that, you got to learn a lot from, so people might be also able to benefit from that knowledge. So yeah, I just want to say thank you guys again. Thank you for the folks who decided to join us today to listen in. Very, very appreciative. That link that I posted right there is an agreement that is in place with OTR Capital that I guess the maximum that if somebody goes through that link, 3% would be the max that you get charged. So I know that there are all type of rates that you get charged for doing factoring, but I think that it's capped at 3%, and you might be able to do something better just depending on what type of operation that you're running. So feel free. This is more so just informational, having OTR Capital here. So if that's something that you're looking to get into, please feel free. But if not, thank you for listening in. So outside of that, man, I just want to say again, thank you. Next week, we're going to have a pretty interesting topic as well. We have a gentleman who was deep in freight. I think he was a VP at one of these large carrier/brokerages. And now he has created his own peripheral business to transportation called Text Locate. So I'm excited to have this brother join us. But outside of that, just tune in next time, next week. I feel like I've been talking so much. I don't have too much else to say right now, but join us next week. On Monday, we're going to have Freight Waves here Monday morning, 7:30, where we're going to talk about, the lanes. Where should you send your trucks? The place that are happening and where you should avoid. So, hey guys, again, Cam, Gary, Cam, appreciate y'all. Y'all be blessed. All right.
Hey, likewise, Jory. Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Man. You too.